guys, I am back with the rest of the story of 공지 파지. Today, I would like to encourage you guys to learn at least some Korean alphabets. Once you remember, once you know how to read Korean alphabets, you can read pretty much everything written in Korean, whether you understand the language or not. So if you're interested, please pay attention. Okay, so let me continue with the story. So there were 5 assignments that Kongji was supposed to finish within the day in order to make it to the party. She finishes them successfully. How? With extra help, remember? So that reading a field, there was a cow appeared, and there was a cow. Remember what I told you about cow? Like as a symbol, as a symbolic image. I say that, like, we have in Korea we have dream readers. So if you dream of cows, that means cows in dream. Interprets as your ancestors. So if you dreamed of a cow the other day, that it means like something happened, or it's like, it kind of like, shows, tries to give you some kind of signs that within the family member, like, something happens, or things like that. And did she fill up a large jar with water? Yes, she did. A toad helped her, right? And then who helped pounding the rice? Birds, right? Birds. They pounded the rice. They did not eat. They did not swallow the crops. They just helped to peel the rice, right? And then spinning and hemp. Who showed up for these? This is kind of like, like this used to be my favorite part. Sanya. Remember Sanya? Korean Sanyas. I don't know if other countries are like that too, but like in Western culture, angels, they usually have wings attached to their actual body, right? Like, it's like back of their shoulders, like they have this, like, like spreading large wings attached to the body. But Korean sanyas, Korean angels, they have sanya like wing clothes. So the clothes, if you put on the clothes, then the clothes makes you float and fly. There is a story of 선녀와 나무꾼, which I'm thinking of doing it maybe in, like, after this, maybe I can do that. That the story starts with this 나무꾼 steals her wing clothes. That's how the story starts. So that Sanya is supposed to return to the heaven, but then she can't. So anyways, excuse me, the angel who helped Kongji spinning and weaving the hemp also prepares a set of nice clothing and a set of flower shoes. Okay, so we are moving on to the final version, not final version, final part of the story. From here, there are, like, some, again, this is some kind of tale that's been passed on from mouth to mouth. So it's pretty much straightforward, the same storyline, but it's got different details. So now there she is. Where's my layer? I'm supposed to select my layer, and then I'm gonna hide that. There you go. So there is this Kongji looking all happy. Now, yay, now she can go to the party. Again, so the skirt isn't supposed to be short so that the ankles will be shown. No, ankles must be hidden. Now I can make her smile. She's even laughing. Yay, now I can make it to the party. like Pachi and my stepmother. Yay! Okay, so anyways, so she gets Goshin. Remember, like, the rest of the story it is pretty much straightforward, like Cinderella, that on the way to the party, she loses one of her shoes, and the important man, the VIP man finds the shoe and he orders people to look for the woman who fits her foot into the shoe. So um, we say, oh, this is my second trying of the recording, and the first time I was interrupted because one of my friends called, and again I told you that like I don't know how to edit, so this is my second time. My first time the drawing was much better, the second time is not so much good. Okay, but I'm trying. Okay, so these are her shoes. Oh, no, why couldn't I do better shoes? There you go. Okay, there you go. Okay, so again, like no heels, no heels. Traditionally, Korean shoes have no heels. So these are called goshin. Goshin is each word has two different word meanings. So two separate meaning. So shin is shoes. got means flower. So it's not like the shoes are not actually made of flowers, but like they were like like flowers stitched on the shoes. Speaking of shoes, if you think about it, like traditional Korean society, like Joseon Dynasty, shoe like you never really like wash your shoes and reuse them. Like you once start wearing them and like you wear them until they get worn out pretty much. So these kind of like shoes were like extraordinary expensive and really exquisite, and like pretty much if you unless you are a part of like really like high society member of women, like for your like for your entire time probably you will never have a chance of wearing these. So it's like it's very like it's like priceless. Anyways, so she got this cushion from the angel and she wears them. And oh yeah, so again about that fairy, about that angel who gave Kongji a set of new clothes and a set of beautiful flower shoes. In some other story, uh, these were given by the cow who helped Kongji to weed the field. Remember, like from the Mission Impossible #1 assignment, the first assignment that she had to do. So like I told you before, like cow represents your ancestors. So we don't have like fairy godmother in the story. So it's either the angel or the cow. So depending on the story, like details are a little different. And yeah, so that's what happens. So then the rest is pretty much similar with the story of Cinderella, that she hurries and then she leaves one of the shoe, and then this nice man. And again, depending on the stories, this man happens to be the prince of Joseon Dynasty or some nobleman who is single. Okay, so like somebody, anyways, it's like this man. Oh my god, it looks so cute now. Where's my eraser? Okay, let me try to make him a little more manly. I am manly with thick eyebrows. And they used to have like this beard and mustache kind of thing going on. There is a story about that hair that I told you earlier, of like by just looking at their hairstyle, they can tell like it tells you the marriage status, right? For the men, if they have beard on their face, It means they are somewhat important in the society. And if you, even though you're old, if your hair is still down, like women's braids, it means you're still single. If your face is clean with no facial hair, it means you're still single. So like there were some, I would say, like, appearance differences that you can tell what kind of like social status like you would belong in. So some stories, anyways, some stories he was prince. So prince means 세자 in Korean, who will inherit the throne, right? So 세자, and 비 means wife. So in the end of the story, 공지 will be 세자빈, 세자비, 세자비, 세자비. We say 왕비. 왕 means king. 비 means wife. So 왕비 means the wife of the king. 세자비 is the wife of the prince, who soon will be the king. So depending on the story, there are a little differences here. But anyways, in the end of the story, he finds her and they get married and live happily ever after. Live happily ever. Come on. Ever after, right? So officially, this is the end of the story. This is the end of 공지 파찌전. So what happens to the 파찌? What about 파찌's stepmom? No, 공지's stepmom. What happens to the mom? This is where I don't really want to get into too deeply, but I will tell you because once again, as I told you before, this is a story that's been passed on mouth to mouth. So like there are many different versions, but this is like where like kind of happy ending finishes as it is, right? So they got married and they lived happily ever after, but then there is another version which is also popular that Haji gets so jealous when he found her and when they decided to get married. I mean, like not decided, but like, when he wanted to get married her, Paji got so jealous. So Paji, and in the story, Paji is supposed to look ugly with freckles. So I don't really know how this happened, but Paji got so jealous, she ends up killing Kongji. She pretends to be Kongji. And the man, I don't even want to say the prince, the man looks at her and he asks, "What happens to your face? Your face seems different." And then she just says like, "Oh, I fell on somewhere and I hurt my face." And then do you know what he does? He believes her. He believes her. So she gets married to him. Yeah. So they ended up being a couple. Yes. So at this point, does the mom know that this is not Kongji, this is the actual Paji? Yes, she does. So the mom is in this with Paji together. Then the story kind of goes like this. And then, maybe I should erase some parts. And then again, there are some stories, like, different detailed of stories. And then Kongji tries to tell the husband to be, the husband at this point, that like, you don't recognize your own wife's face? What is wrong with you, right? And then he finally, like takes notice, right? Like he takes notes. Like it's like, oh, hang on. What is wrong with this? What? And then he finds out that what she did, and he gets furious, and then he orders to kill her with the mom. The mom looks sad now because she has to die. So Then Kungji says like, oh, well, still there are still my only family members. Please spare them, spare their lives. And then he's like, oh, like how kind you are. Like you have the heart of gold. And then everything is forgiven, and they think of what they had done, and they regret it, and they're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I'm so sorry, Kongji, for what we have done. And then again, so this is like the most positive version of the end of the story, that like they all lived happily ever after. So that's number one. So they make up, right? So everything goes nice and smoothly. But then another version is that the king got so furious. I mean, like the prince who married to Pachi got married so furious that he orders to kill Pachi, and now Pachi dies. Pachi dies. 여봐라, 죽여라, 죽여라, right? Kill her. I also said 죽여라. Guys, pay attention that Koreans don't really use subject or object. We do use them, but many times we just skip them. We assume that people would know what I'm talking about. I know it's not a good habit. So she dies. She dies, and this is where it gets so creepy. He also orders people to make fermented food side dish of her body. I don't even want to say this, but we say 젓갈. In Korean, 젓갈 is usually used, made of fish. So what happens is you steam fresh fish, and because if you think about it, like hundreds of years ago, we didn't have refrigerators, so we couldn't really keep anything fresh. So instead, we it's like people have smoked them, people have dried them, people have them fermented them so that they could eat for a long time. So they usually made 젓갈 was usually made of fish. So it was fish with salt. So it'll be easy to store them and eat it for a long time. And this fish plus salt, it's kind of like, like now I would say fish sauce. Okay, so fish sauce, 젓갈. We use it in kimchi. I'm pretty sure some of you guys have heard of like Korean kimchi. Kimchi is actually Korean, it's not Chinese. Anyways, yeah, so this man orders people to make like pachi sauce of using her body. So the thing is that now she's in a small jar, right? Oh my god. And then okay, so this is like this is so horrifying. Let me just I want to go through it really quickly. And then this jar of her in it gets to deliver it to the mom. And people say that your son-in-law gave you this. So she thinks like, oh, my son-in-law, how sweet of him. He gave me some 젓갈. I shall eat it with my rice. And then she eats this with her rice. And then when she was finished her meal, people tell her that like, actually what you just ate was pachi in the jar. And then, well, guess what happened? Yeah, like, she goes mental, like, she gets crazy. and the story finishes. But then the story doesn't really finish there. Kongji comes back to life. I'm pretty sure a lot of you out there know some Asian cultures. What does lotus flowers symbolize? Have you guys heard? So lotus, you say 연꽃. Oh yes, very good. Yeah, 꽃, it's the same thing. Lotus flower usually means rebirth or like mercy in Buddhism. So she comes back to life in a lake inside of how does a lotus look like? It's got lots of leaves like this, right? Yeah. Okay, good. So she comes back to life because she didn't do anything, right? She was a good child. She was a good daughter. She was a good girl. So she comes back to life, and she marries to the same guy who is supposed to be the prince or the royal man or Yangban or something. And then they finally live happily ever after. So there are a few different versions here, as you can see, but Kongji dies and then she comes back to life. That doesn't change. Paji ends up dying. That doesn't change. So in a way, I want to change the color here. I also would like to tell you one expression in Korean. 인과응보. So it means what comes around, what goes around. What comes around goes around. What goes around, what comes around? What comes around goes around. I'm just gonna write it down because I'm pretty sure people who listen to this or look at this, you guys would know what I'm trying to say, right? So what goes around comes around. What comes around goes around, right? So you have to behave you have to behave, or you have to do what you have to do, be responsible, then you will have a good result. That's 인과응보. So what you do, it'll pay off later. So Korean culture deeply believed in this kind of idea that you have to build up the kindness and mercy towards other people, so it'll come back to you, where when you are in a not very good situation, or when you are in a dangerous situation. So lots of stories kind of going to finish like this. Remember the first story that I told you, 장화 홍련전, happy ending? Yes, like the bad guys get paid, like they get paid for what they deserved. Yes, so it's like this. So this is it. This is the end of the story. After the 3 videos, I finally finished 공지 파지전. So thanks for listening to my story, everybody. And I'll come back with another story. I'm thinking of doing 선녀와 나무꾼. It's a story of a couple. So I'll come back. If you have a chance, please try to learn some Korean alphabets and stay safe. Don't forget to wear masks. I'll see you guys later. Thank you. Bye.